You want to say the Mishnah on Pei Beit Amud Aleph?
Kosher zakat?
Lo yelamed Adam ravak sofrim.
Velo talmid.
Now say that, translate that.
A man who is a single should not teach, be a teacher actually, a Talmud Torah teacher.
Well, let's analyze it further. First of all, a ravak. Why is an unmarried person called a ravak?
It's empty.
That's right, vague. Sofrim, what's Rashi say?
Sofrim Rashi. Sofrim.
Ravak,
Panui.
Panui, empty, below Isha. Freed, and it's empty, without a wife. Sofrim, the question here is, doesn't mean someone who's never been married, or does it also include a person who's been married but now is without a wife? She died or divorced. A bit of a question. But the simple meaning is, if he's now not married, even though he was once married. Now Sofrim, Rashi says, what's Sofrim mean?
Sofrim, melamdei tinokot.
Teaching children. So just a minute. Just first let's analyze this. So the teacher is called a sofer, yes? He's the melamed. Why should a melamed be called a sofer? Sofer today means who? A scribe. But in the Mishnah, what does it mean? It doesn't mean a scribe, it means why teacher? A scribe you understand because he's got to write the sefer, right? He knows how to write. So why is a teacher called a sofer in the time of the Mishnah? The old tradition. Well, you've got an example. Can any of you answer? Why should a teacher be called a sofer? Sofer means a writer, a scribe, if it's a question of a sefer, divrei Torah or divrei Tanakh.
Maybe someone that had the literal skills to also teach. He also probably was someone who had to write things.
Not necessarily. There are plenty of teachers who can't write a sofer Torah. They don't know how to write it correctly. And there are plenty of people who were not scribes at all. Why the sofer? It's called melamed. Why sofrim? So, well, what's the classic example? Who was called a sofer? Find in the Tanakh, who was called a sofer? Ezra. So Ezra spent his time just writing? No. He was the great teacher of Torah. No, the Gemara says at the end of the first period of Kiddushin, why the Talmidei Chachamim called Sofrim? But they count all the Lashon counting. They count all the letters of the Torah. So the Sofrim were experts in teaching Tanakh, specifically, and also explaining it. But they knew the Tanakh by heart, they knew all the letters even of the Torah, and they knew the words of the Torah, and therefore they're the ones who taught children, because children, the first level of children is Mikra, to teach them Tanakh. So Sofrim is used as an expression for the great teachers of Tanakh, but it also includes great teachers. Therefore even the great teachers are also called Sofrim. There's an indication here that many of the principles of Torah Sheba'al Peh in Nigla and Nista have to do also with the letters of the Tanakh, which is so significant. And that's what's brought about the revival of counting the letters of the Torah in our time. Because it was only a very limited type of scholars who go back to the Middle Ages and before used to count the letters. It was a whole, they knew them by heart. But today, with the age of the computer, it's become very popular. All aspects of counting the letters, how many letters there are in a passage, and what are the letters, the numerical value of the letters, has become one of the aspects of even many foreign were introduced in that direction, some of them very arbitrary. We've got to keep even when we start counting the letters of the Torah, we have to keep to the parameters of Torah Sheba'al Peh. So, in fact, when this started some 20, 30 years ago, we in the yeshiva, we had even a weekly demonstration, a lecture of the significance of the letters of the Torah, the letters in different parshas, which from different angles. Some of them were based really on deep aspects of Torah tradition, which could be uncovered through use of the computer, but other aspects were a bit too arbitrary. We easily go off the right path. In fact, we produced quite a number of articles on this subject. So, of course, many things were developed by mathematicians already some time ago, and in our time, the concept of a teacher of Torah on a high level being a sofer, somebody who can count all the letters and the values of the letter, how many times a letter appears in different passages, has gained more study. To the extent that, for example, I had a whole debate with one of those who was a mathematician that dealt with this. So he said, he found it to be so convincing that he said that surely we shouldn't develop it because you can prove from this the Torah couldn't have been composed by a human being. It must have become composed by Hashem. So he said, his claim was there's no freedom of choice left. When a person starts studying, he's become very convinced, he sees it's 100% true. So of course, I worked against this entirely, because even if a person knows the Torah is 100% only from divine source, it's still got the Yetzer Hara that can take him away from fulfilling the Torah. Freedom of choice still remains. But in any case, it might be one of the signs of that ultimately mankind will recognize the absolute truth of the Torah. Now, this explanation brought here, Lo Yelamed Adam Ravak Sofrim. You've got all the Gemara in front of you. This is a Gemara share, sorry. You must have a Gemara. There are so many Gemaras downstairs, you all have one here.
It's hard to find a Kiddushin.
Huh?
It's hard to find a Kiddushin.
There are plenty around, just look at it, even all over. If you don't have one, then ask Uri to find you one. Uri can find you one.
Because there's another Kiddushin Ch at the same time.
All right, but we've got enough. The person should even have his own. You can write your name in. You can. Tosfos says a different pshat, not like Rashi. How Tosfos says Lo Yelamed Ravak Sofrim. So Tosfos got an unusual pshat. What's Sofrim? Not like Ezra HaSofer. But what's Sofrim mean? Please bring a Gemara. Yeah, very important. Bring a Gemara.
Counters.
Yeah, or at least bring a page and you can take a photocopy of the page. Yeah. So, what Tosfos say? Sofrim? No? Look at the Tosfos. What Tosfos say? Sofrim?
Talmidim Ravak.
No.
Tosfos?
No, not read. Lo Yelamed Ravak Sofrim. Perish Talmidim. Full stop. Yeah? Full stop.
Okay.
He said, Sofrim are the children. The Tzinokot. Said, Lo Yelamed Adam Ravak Sofrim. The children. What, the Talmidim are called Sofrim? Where's Tosfos get that from? Because Tosfos says Sofer means, first of all, Sofer is used either for great Talmidei Chachomim, of the greatest, and we're talking about Lamdei Tinokas, teaching children. And therefore, in this context, you can't say it's a reference to people like Ezra HaSofer, as we explained. That's so fair, doesn't just mean a scribe. Certainly it can't mean scribes when we're dealing here with scribes, we're dealing with teachers. And also it can't mean the big Talmidei Chachamim who referred to as Sofrim. Because an ordinary teacher of children does not need to be Gadol B'Torah. It's got to be a good teacher. So why is the word Sofrim used here? So Teresa says Sofrim means the children. So why are the children called Sofrim?
The numbers?
So there are very few Meforshim who explain this Tosfos. So I want to give the explanation like this. The reason why Tosfos doesn't want to say the teacher doesn't fit the teacher. But it even less fits the children who are beginning to learn Tanakh. And I'll tell you what it means and go more deeply. There's a question in the Gemara, maybe some of you have had it before in the previous sugyas, if you're allowed to receive a salary for teaching Torah. And everybody agrees that if you're teaching children, then you can take a wage for it. Children you have to teach Tanakh, because it's Ben Chomish Lemikro, which is learned in Pekah Ovis. The first thing you have to learn is Tanakh. And when you teach children Tanakh, you have to teach them how to read the Tanakh. And even it says in the Gemara, you have to teach them Pisuk Tam. You've got to teach them how to read it grammatically, correctly, and even with the Ta'amim. The Ta'amim, what are the Ta'amim HaMikra?
The cantillation signs.
Yes, the cantillation signs is what they call today in popular Cheder language the trop. The trop. Yes, Yiddish phrase trop. But it means you've got to know how to read it correctly, how to be Bal Koire. And that's why in the system, which has become very popular these days, of those who really want their children to learn things correctly, that you introduce children to the Chumash, to read every verse correctly according to the cantillation signs, which tell them not only where to divide one sentence from the other, but how to divide one phrase from the other. Because the snachta is almost like a semicolon, and then there are a lot of ta'amim, which divide one phrase from the next, and also they have there are cantillation methods. Not all of them have preserved exactly the same traditions, but they all go with a musical expression. Like Kriyas HaTorah. The Kriyas HaTorah, according to the custom of the Teimanim, a bit different to the custom of most Sephardi congregations, and basically an Ashkenazi one. But they're very important also to get a deep understanding of what is mentioned in the words. And this little children take to this. I've seen a grandson who, when he was age 6, he could already more or less knew whatever he was learning Bereshis, he knew it by heart. And he used to, with a cantillation, because the cantillation is attractive, and it takes hold of you sing it, and then you explain them what the pasuk says. Yeah, I just tell you, that's a recent. When they finished the Chumash, which took where one of my grandson was there and a few others, so I tested them. Well, I asked them, who can tell me a certain unusual trop sign called the Shalshelis, which goes up and down, which only occurs 4 times in the Chumash. So I tested them, I sang it with them, said, where does it occur? And they sang it in most of the class, they knew it by heart. They knew by heart the 4 cases where this trop sign occurs. It's called Shalshelis, a chain, it goes up and down. Up and down.
Four times in the whole Chumash?
Four times the Chumash. They gave an explanation of it, bit by bit, and it livened them up, because it livened up. They see and then you give them the explanation what lies behind it. It's dramatic, because each one 4 times when it's mentioned is because of a great struggle that took place in the person consuming. It says he hesitated, one place mamor, the other one he said a deep prayer, and he had a big conflict inside. Yosef HaTzadik, when he was tested with a big test, he just had to say no, and the first offering brought by Aaron HaKohen. If you go into it more deeply, each nigun expresses in musical terms and in grammatical terms what takes place here. It's apparent to the whole Tanakh. Let's see. So that's why they're called Sofrim. In other words, the way you teach children, you have to teach them Tanakh, because Sofrim is specifically connected with the Tanakh in one way or another, although the Tanakh is the basis also of oral tradition, but this is the inspired word of Hashem or the prophets. And therefore, this way they learn more deeply syntax and Hebrew grammar, and they learn also the spirit of what's taking place in these words. So that's what I want to explain Perish Talmidim. Why choices? Because some of them ask, why choices it Talmidim? Where do you find children are called Sofrim? But since we're dealing specifically with teaching Tanakh, Pisuk Tam, the Gemara calls it, for which a person is also permitted to go and take a full wage for this, because this is a preparation with more of a technical nature. But this is a way to introduce the children to love the Torah, to remember it as well. Because what is the person, when he's losing his memory, what does he remember more than anything else?
Long-term memory.
Huh?
Childhood?
Any human being, he starts losing his memory. What will he remember more than anything else? They made investigation, but I know from my experience speaking to people who are losing their memory. They remember songs they learned in their youth. That they remember more than anything else. Yep. I've unfortunately had to see people who've got dementia, and I can't get them to speak. So you start singing a nigun they learned when they were children, you can start speaking as well. It comes up. So that's this. So Sofrim is teaching little children. That's why Toysel is different to Rashi. Now, then Ravak, Rashi says, Panui B'lo Isha. What does Toysel say? How do you define Ravak? Look at the second Tosfos on the page. You can hear it in every word. First he said, what is Sofrim? Talmidim, full stop. Ravak, who? Nasa Isha Leolam. He never married.
So it means he's a bachelor.
The bachelor. Betagum shel Bachurim kashol yikushelu him Ravakim. There's a pasuk we find. The unread translation of Bachurim. Bachurim are people who have never married. Because if he's been married before, and then he loses his wife or divorces, so it's no longer called a Bachur. It's called the Karushon Alman. Why is that? What's the root of Bachur?
Like the chosen. Like the firstborn, like chosen. No?
No, that's it. Bechor. Your firstborn is with the Chaf, this is with the Chet. Beit Chaf Reish. What's the Beit Chaf Reish? It's to choose. To choose. When you're still and have never married, you've got choice of the one and only from a few million girls, and vice versa. Bachur and Bachura. But once you've married, then your choice becomes more limited. You know, limited to that person, try to keep that person. And so Tosfos says that he says Bachur means someone who's never been married, because once he's married you give him a different title. Now, you can say that someone is saying there's a machlokes here, Rashi and Tosfos also. What's the Rashi say? What's the Ravak? How's Rashi define Ravak?
Punui below Isha.
He doesn't have a wife now, but maybe had a wife before. Can also be included. Because it's a question of halakha as well. Is a person who's been married, because if the whole point, why shouldn't he be a teacher? Because he'll meet the mothers. Yeah? As a result, he might be tempted. He might be tempted to, never know, the mother may be a very, very attractive person. You never know. So the question is, do you restrict this law that he shouldn't teach? If someone had been married, I lost my wife, divorced her. And therefore, we know a person's been married, it's easier for him to control his instincts. Because it's different to a person never been married, and the average man is he's mature and so on, or he's late adolescence or beginning adulthood, not married. So the Yetzer Hara works most strongly. But if he's already been married, then no longer applies. So according to Tosfos, it would appear Shelo Nosa Isha Me'olam. So therefore, a person who's divorced or a widow, or is already, it's different. It's permissible. Not like Rashi. According to Rashi, it would be anyone who now doesn't have a wife. Now let's go back to the Rashi. We want to say again the Rashi now. Sofrim melamde tinokus kaloima. When Rashi says kaloima, what does he mean?
So to say.
But often he doesn't say kaloima. Kaloima, that is, i.e., like you say in English, you want to understand it more better, and clearly what it means. So Rashi says, what does it mean he shouldn't teach? What's the Chiddush of Rashi? Lo yargil ravak atzmo. A ravak should not accustom himself to be amongst the teachers. The Gemara of Harish Tama, and the Gemara explains the reason is because he might be tempted to get too friendly with one of the mothers, and then he may even seduce her. Now, what does Rashi mean? Every word, they say in time of Rashi, ink had the value of gold. Yeah, because Rashi it's a saying, Rashi is very careful, both in the Chumash and even the Gemara, with choice of words. What's Rashi want to tell us? Koloma, what's he telling us here? Telling us a Chiddush in Halacha or not? And this is important. If it's brought in the Poskim, it makes a difference in Halacha. No, come on. Think over.
Is there any? Oh, there's cups here. Is this good water?
No, not Floyagin.
Oh, not to take any chances. Shouldn't take any chances. Don't become regular. It might slip up. One time.
Very good. You've touched upon the international word. Comes from the Hebrew. You've said it in English, but the same root, regular. Yeah? Regular comes from the same root as regel. What's regel mean?
Foot.
Foot. What else does it mean in Hebrew? In Hebrew it means regular. We said, please Hashem, we said, Shetargileinu b'soirusecha. What's it mean, targileinu? Cause us to walk.
Custom.
It becomes a habit. Hergel means a habit. Something you become used to, which you do more regularly. Targileinu, make it regular for us to learn Torah. So we say in the morning, Hergel. Well, we all know that, as they say, that deeds, if you keep on repeating good deeds, they become a habit. And habit is called second nature, but after a time, habit comes into complete nature. So therefore Rashi says lo yargil. What's Rashi come to tell us here?
Should not get used to it.
You shouldn't make it regular that you are a teacher of children. But what can we learn from here? Question that arises, what happens to a person who is not regular, but somebody asks me, no, a person is married and he's a teacher, and then he can't manage to come, so he asks, maybe asks his brother or his son, look, who's not married, yeah, are you willing to teach in my place? Can you be a replacement teacher? So according to Rashi, you can. Yeah, Rashi's. The post can bring, many of them, that although he shouldn't become a regular teacher, but if it's irregular, it's permissible. Yeah. It can be. Okay. Now, Karen, who wants to say the next piece of Mishnah? Isha Sofrim. And a woman should also not teach children. So Rashi also says, V'chei lo telamed isha sofrim. What's Rashi say? U'targil atzma liot melamdet tino. Can a woman be a teacher of boys? No? Not regularly. But irregularly? Yes, according to Rashi, yes. So, but not regularly. Why? Because she might meet with the fathers who bring the boys. Okay. Now, shall I tell you, now from this phrase, Lo Yelamed Sofrim, can you give me the reason why Tosfos disagrees with Rashi in this Mishnah on the definition of Sofrim? Rashi, Sofrim refers to the teacher. Tosfos says no, can't refer to the teacher, must refer to the children. Where does Tosfos get it from? Apart from I gave a nice drush on it, but the simple explanation of Tosfos why he disagrees with Rashi here is because of what? Because of women. If Sofrim is a reference to the teachers, the phrase Sofrim you never use for women. It's in the masculine. Women shouldn't, as it were. I mean, the Mishnah is not, as it were, a premonition of women who want to be like men. You know, you'd say you have women rabbis, so certainly you have women cheder teachers of boys. Yeah, why not? Women can be rabbis, the whole kehillah. The women can be, they call them poskot, they're paskin shailas. The women, you know, in America it's becoming common, and even some people call them orthodox, and women try to wear the pants everywhere. They want to be exactly the same as the men, but that's not the language of the Mishnah. So therefore Tosfos generally says Sofrim refers to male scholars and not to women teachers. And here the Mishnah says Isha lo yelamed Sofrim. So what's that supposed to mean? So therefore Tosfos says it must go on the children. The children are boys. It's not like speaking about girls learning Tanakh, it's about boys learning Tanakh. And some say, in fact, a woman should not be, amongst the boys there might be some who are even over bar mitzvah, or over the age of Bia, which is considered 9 years, the possibility of Bia. And therefore, it says here, they shouldn't be teachers. According to Rashi means regular teachers. But Tosfos says the word Sofrim must go on the students, not on the teacher. Okay. So, next phrase. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, who wants to say? Rabbi Yehuda Omer.
Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Afni she'ein lo isha lo yelamed sofrim.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yehuda Omer, lo yirei revak.
The question is, what's Rabbi Yehuda adding? That we'll see in the Gemara. What Rabbi Loza? Rabbi Loza seems to say the same, at the Tanakh as the first view. What do you mean af? It's said before already. Ravak, what's the difference between Ravak and Misha Ein Lo Isha? Yes?
Someone that will never be married, and someone who's not yet married, or maybe will be married.
Look, this you can say, Al Pi Pashtos, according to Rashi, according to it's more difficult. But we'll see in the Gemara. It would appear on the surface Rabbi Loza is just repeating. A Ravak is someone who doesn't have a wife. So Rabbi Loza says, that's a Ravak. So Rabbi Loza said someone who doesn't have a wife shouldn't teach. It's mentioned at the first in the Mishnah. If you look at it simply. So the Bishlam according to Tosfos, you can make a difference. Tosfos, because Tosfos explains Ravak is Hu Adam Panui Shelo Nasa Isha Me'olam, he's never been married. But according to Tosfos, it's simple. But Rabbi Loza says it doesn't mean, he extends it further. Tosfos says Ravak is someone never been married, to him it's written. But somebody has been married and now he has not have a wife because he divorced her or the wife died. It's okay. Rabbi Loza says it's not okay. He doesn't have a wife now can also not teach. That's according to Tosfos, but according to Rashi, how would you explain it? It's not so simple. So, we go on to the next thing. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. What did Rabbi Yehuda say? David, you say, what did Rabbi Yehuda say?
In the Mishnah or in Rashi?
What?
Rabbi Yehuda Omer, lo yircha ravak b'hima yar'eh, a single man should not pasture
pasture animals.
Sorry. V'lo yishenu shnei ravakim.
Let's first see what's Rashi say on this phrase. Why shouldn't a ravak be a shepherd?
Because he might be
animals?
to the animals.
Because it might lead him, because he obviously sees also the animals breeding, so it might arouse stimulus in him. And he adds another extra prohibition.
And two men shouldn't sleep together under one sheet. V'lo yishnu shnei ravakim, two single men should
So Rashi says,
talit, under one talit.
under one blanket. Yeah.
Chad,
So Rashi says, why? Shelo yavo lidei mishkab zachor. They shouldn't come to homosexuality. But Chachamim matirim, both these things are forbidden by according to Rabbi Yehuda and permissible according to the Chachamim. Why Rashi says? Say the Rashi. Chachamim matirim. Why the Chachamim matir?
Shelo nechshedu b'mishkal zachor v'behema. Because
We don't suspect Jews of mishkav zachor behema.
no homosexual bestiality for Jews.
Yeah. So the Gemara says that the Canaanites, who were very corrupt, and they engaged in mishkav zachor and homosexual relations, but it says they've got one zechus. They didn't write a kesuv on it. Not like the Supreme Court in America, who legalized it. They didn't give it social acceptance. People do it, they recognize you don't make it official. And today we're living in such moral corruption, going in the wrong direction. Who wants to say the Tosfos Le'ira Behemo? No? Simcha, have a go?
Mipnei sheyesh lo tava yoter meisha acher Shenase Isha. Asa. Let's see, okay. So because that there is to him a desire very strong, let's see, Me'ish is to marry another, Acher.
A married man will not be so easily, will not be stimulated.
Okay.
That's what it says. Ravak is particular because he's not been married. And this goes together simply according to Tosafos' definition of a ravak. Previous. Yeah. Okay. Now, who's to say that start the Gemara? You want to say Chaim?
My timer.
What's the reason? What's the reason of the Tanna Kamma that the Ravak should not teach children? If you say it's because the teacher is suspected of child molestation, homosexual molestation. He's teaching boys. But he might be suspected of that. In fact, there have been cases of that nature, the teachers who molested the boys.
Britannia Amru Lo,
the Rabbi Yehuda
Lo Nechshadu Israel Al Mishkaf Zachor V'lo Al Habahem.
And we see the Chachamim, the Tanna Kamma is the same as the Chachamim, so they say we don't suspect such things amongst Jews. Hello?
Ravak Mishum Hasa de Yenuke.
Because the mothers of the children. That's why. So what about a woman?
Isha Mishum.
Another Avosa de Yenuka. The fathers of the children. So Rashi says, my timer.
Lo Yilmad Ravak Sofrim.
Here we say because they're suspected of homo molestation. But we see Jews not expected this. As the Chachomim said to Rabbi Yehuda, when he said you can't have two boys sleeping under one blanket, so the Chachomim say no, it doesn't matter, because we don't suspect boys of doing things like that. So therefore, we're going to say Mishum Hamosed Yenuka. It must be because Imotehem, the mothers of the children, Shemitzut Etzlo, who come to the Cheder, Lavi et Benehem Lebeit HaSefer, to bring their sons to the school, so they get friendly with the teacher, and then it's attractive mother, so the teacher might be a seducer. Now the Rebbe Lezer, what's Rebbe Lezer add? Rebbe Lezer adds Av Mishein Lo Isha. Someone who's got no wife. What does he mean by this? You want to say? Daniel, will you say?
The Mishnah?
In the Gemara, we're continuing. The Boilo, Mishein Lo Isha Klal, does it really mean she's got no wife at all? Or does it mean he's got a wife? And still, what's the Chumrah of Rabbi Lezer? He says, you must say something more than the Tanna Kamma, more than the first opinion. Maybe he is married, only his wife is not with him. His wife went abroad. In other words, what does he add? Does he add, say the Rashi, Misha ein le'isho klal, or Mosif at the Tanakh, he adds to the restrictions of the first Tana in the Mishnah. First Tana Mishnah called Meravak Shalom Isho Miyamav. It speaks about a bachelor who's never married. And then Meleza says, even
someone who has a wife but she doesn't live with him.
He says two things. Maybe he had a wife and she died. And even Aval Yeshlo ve'enu shro etzlo muta, and he's got a wife. But if he's got a wife and she's not living with him at the time, she's abroad, then it's permissible. Or does it mean she'enu shro etzlo? Even if she's not living with him, it's also forbidden. That means she's his wife. She is his wife. And also, she's not divorced, she hasn't died, but she happens to be in the Shurui Etzloi. It means she went abroad for a time.
But the first argument is strange.
Huh?
How can you say, if he had a wife, he has a wife but she died? That means he doesn't have a wife anymore. He's with.
That's right.
So how can you give this argument to say he has a wife but she died? So it's like he does not have a wife.
I used to have one.
There are three levels of Ravak, right? It's also Machlokes Rashi and Choice. Now we're going to Shittas Rashi. So, one level is the person who's never been married. Yeah? So he has the highest level of stimulus. Yeah? If he's never been married. Then there's a person who's been married but is divorced, or his wife has died. Yeah? And then there's a level of a person who not only has been married, when the stimulus goes down a bit, he married before, he's had married life, so they were not so much afraid. Then there's the level of a person who is married now, and his wife happens to be not with him, in which case his stimulus is even less. Why? Because at the moment his wife is away, but let's say she's gone on holiday, yeah, for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. So obviously has much less stimulus from another woman, however attractive it is, than a person whose wife has died or is divorced.
Couldn't this mean that someone who's not yet divorced, like estranged or separated? Couldn't this mean that it's not like that his wife isn't with him right now? Could it mean that someone who's separated or estranged from his wife that's not yet divorced?
It's similar, another stage in between. But anyway, so the answer is there's a brisa which declares it more clearly. Toshama, another text of the brisa is Av Mishi Yeshlo. He is a married man, but she's not with him now. Either she's gone on holiday, or they've decided perhaps they want to live apart for a short time. They're not properly divorced, they will live apart for a short time. Even such a person shouldn't teach. Yeah. Although there's every chance that the wife's coming back. That's the question here. Now, can you just say the last part? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, the Yere, Tanya. Tanya, will you say Tanya? Omer el Rabbi Yehuda.
Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo Yere.
You shouldn't become a shepherd.
Tanya Amru lo Rabbi Yehuda lo techeshdu Yisrael al mishkav zakor lo velo al behema. So it's taught that he said to Rabbi Yehuda that he shouldn't, that Israel shouldn't be saddled and to be known to be with cattle.
Okay. Now, the decision is like Rabbi Yehuda, that we don't suspect Jews of these matters. Nevertheless, when we see that certain al-behema, that's something that we don't find amongst Jews, but with the problem, mishkav zachor, it can sometimes be a problem, and one has to be aware of it. So, the Rambam, who crystallizes halacha, he says like this: that as far as a male teacher of children, and the mothers are likely to come, then he might be stimulated as an attractive mother. That's what he says. There's the prohibition for a male teacher. A female teacher to teach boys, there he says, because of yichud, she'll fall into yichud. Why didn't he say the same thing? That she put, but of course the situation of the woman is more passive. She'll be together with a man, and as a result, the reason for yichud, the Rama also says, is because yichud is likely to lead to a forbidden relationship. So therefore, with a man, it's because there's no, depends on him. And therefore, a man is more likely to be stimulated, which also is analyzed. This has to do with the different interpretations of Rashi and Tosfos, especially Rashi's comment of Yagil, of making more regular. But in the case of a woman, it's the other way around. So for Yichud, the chiluk is that a man does not have to be so afraid of Yichud. Why? Because he's teaching a lot of children. And some of these boys may already be over bar mitzvah, at least be over the age of biur. Therefore the whole fear is because of the sexual stimulus which comes from, which stimulates the attractive woman might stimulate the teacher. And therefore he has the heter that if his wife is in town, that's Haroch L'Maisa also, if his wife is in town, then it's permissible for him to teach. That's the heter which we discussed also with God to Yichud. But with a woman where the chashash could have Yichud, also probably she has less boys. And probably the boys she teaches are under bar mitzvah. Therefore, it's because if they were older, then would be forbidden in any case because of Yichud. And that's why the issue is because of Yichud. So anyway, let's just start also on the next Mishnah, first part. What's to say? You want to say? Anyone prepared the next Mishnah?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, says.
כל שעסקיו עם אנשים לא יתייחד עם אנשים ולא ילמד אדם.
No, that's it, just that part. What's that mean?
Every man whose business is involved always with women, he gets involved with women, lo yitiyached, he shouldn't isolate himself with the women.
Even with many. Generally speaking, yichud is permissible with 3 women. One man can be with 3 women, not with 2 women. But the one's likely to pick the other one, with 3 it's permissible, it's not yichud. But if a person's business is one, which is clothes for women, or the example brought by Tosfos is if he's a peddler, roichel. So say the Rashi, Kol שעסק בנשים, שמלאכת אומנתו, umanot is a person's trade. His trade is a trade of spices, perfumes, women's clothes. So obviously because he's got to deal with women. So Rashi says, the work is done for women, and the women need to have his services. So, lo yityached im anashim, afilim ha binashim. Here there's no limit. he should not be alone together with a lot of women. Why? Then Shilibo Gaspahu, his feelings become very familiar with his women, get to know them, and therefore, if he's a handsome man and the women that like him, they'll protect what they'll cover over. Some women will protect the others. But ilu ish acharena, what's an ordinary man? Then we learnt before, B'shtei nashim tanan, then he is not permitted to be together with two women, because we're afraid that one woman, he gets friendly with one and one will protect the other. But he can be together alone with 3 women, 4 women. So, who wants to say the choice first on this? You want to try, David, the choice first?
Didn't prepare, but I can try.
Yeah, but who has prepared?
Lo jeder hat immer ein Schirm.
Yeah.
Perush.
Contras. Who's contras?
Incense.
What? Who is contras?
He's a Jew.
Yes? What does the word contras mean?
Notes?
You don't know?
Notes is notes.
Contras is really a Latin expression which means notes. Writing notes. Even today in modern Hebrew, the word contras is used for a person who writes notes. It's got a notebook. The notebook's called the contras.
Yeah.
So what's the mean page for contras?
Explanation in the notes.
Huh? Well, I give you a clue, David. Have you? Isn't there something from France which goes by the name contras?
Which goes by the name Kuntres?
Isn't there a newspaper or a shop which sells French books called Contras?
Yeah, I know the name. I mean,
You haven't heard it?
I heard it, of course I heard it.
Yeah? I think there's a shop even in town, Yerushalayim, called Contras.
Yeah.
I think there's also a French Torah journal called Contras. Why? You know why?
It can only be Rashi.
Contras is Rashi.
Notebooks.
What's Rashi got to do with the notebook? Come on, boys.
He's the one that made the comments.
What's Rashi do? Huh?
Kept his notes on the book.
Yeah. He wrote the commentaries.
What? You know what's the commentary of Rashi?
It's a gift from Hashem.
He called it Kuntreis, and that's why you have a number of readings in Rashi. But Rashi, when he gave the Shir, he just wrote down notes. And some of the notes were not his own, even of his grandchildren who were great Talmidei Chachamim. Yeah, maybe even of his daughters wrote down. And so therefore, he left behind notes on the Masechtas, on the tractates of the Gemara. And then those notes were edited into the regular commentary. That's the Perush HaKuntras, you see. It's called Perush HaKuntras. Who are the Tosfos? What Tosfos mean?
Additions.
Additions to what?
Rashi.
To Rashi. And who were the Baalei Tosfos? They were near all of them either from the grandchildren of Rashi or from his disciples. And they developed a whole school of commentaries going into much more detail than Rashi himself to try to understand all the involved discussions in the Gemara and sometimes bring them also to practical halacha. So therefore, the Tosfos is addition to the notes of Rashi. So here Tosfos says, Perush B'Kuntras, Afilim Noshim Habe, a person who's got a business with women, B'Dafka Roichel, but it says only someone who's a peddler, spices one, Isha Chemuter, but for other people, if it's an ordinary person, he's allowed to be together with more than 2 women is permissible.
So Rabbi, Does this pretty much mean that someone who's just on a regular basis that is someone who's not regular to be with men and women all the time? Because I mean, someone who's not a peddler could also be in a situation where he's
what?
Someone who's not a peddler could also be in a situation with women all the time. I mean,
Yes. Well, it's someone who's in a similar situation.
I think it's one.
You spoke about the halacha de maisa, and you spoke about this Gemara, which discusses a case specifically which a man is in a business dealing with women on a regular basis, and that's why you shouldn't be alone with them because he becomes familiar. Even though the halacha de maisa is generally speaking, it may be okay, but not if he's regular.
Okay.
Is that right?
Well, that is liable to different interpretations.
Yeah.
Yes.